Hello. Hi. Let's sit nice and tall and we'll close the eyes. And just taking this moment to connect with yourself. Connect with your breath. Connect with that beautiful cosmic energy that is flowing through you. And even if you don't quite understand it, even if you're not quite sure if you have faith in it, even if you're not quite sure it actually exists, place the hands on the heart and simply practice gratitude for the life force that is you, that is around you, and that is throughout all things everywhere. Slow down the breath. Soften the rough edges. Look deeply within. And be grateful. Drawing the hands together in front of the heart, we'll lift our voices in one Om followed by the invocatory mantras. Taking a breath in. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om Ganana Antva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavin Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jestarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspata Anafshrinvanuti Basiddha Sadhanam Mahaganapataye Namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhir Vajinivati Dhinama Vitriyavatu Ano Divo Brahataf Parvata Da Saraswati Ajata Gantu Yagnyam Havan Devi Jujushana Gritachi Shagman Nova Chamushati Shrinotu Vagdevyai Namaha. And gently releasing the hands down and fluttering the eyes open. And so today's topic is going to be the benefits, the practice, and the power of patience. I always love when someone smiles when I say what we're going to talk about. They're like, okay. The benefits, the power, and the practice of patience. What is patience? Who wants to give me a description of patience? Any thoughts? What is patience?
Allowing time.
Allowing time. Oh, that's really nice. I like that. Allowing time. What did someone else say?
I said waiting. Waiting for an expectation.
Waiting. We'll just stay waiting. We'll take the expectation out. But yes, there does tend to be that expectation there, waiting for the expectation to realize. But we'll say allowing time, waiting, and maybe waiting for an expectation. Anything else you want to add to that?
Calm.
Calm. A calmness. Yep. So allowing time, waiting, perhaps for an expectation, calmly. Anything else you want to add to that? What's your definition of patience?
Oh, my.
No pressure.
When I think of patience, I think of allowance and rest and receptivity.
Okay. Allowance, rest, and receptivity. Great words, absolutely. Anything that you have to add for a definition of patience?
Patience is something I don't have.
Okay.
Allowing space for somebody else to just be themselves, even though you might not agree with how they're thinking or going about doing something.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a problem for me.
So allowing space. So there's one word that nobody has said. All of these are very beautiful definitions, and they're all most certainly, at least I feel, absolutely part of the definition. Yes?
I was going to say love.
Love?
'Cause my mother popped up in my mind, and when she's in a nursing home, and when I go in, there's always a slew of complaints.
Mm.
And it takes, I get that initial impatience, and then I look at her and I think of everything she went through in her life, and it just,
Love.
I really need to go to that place where I just don't snap at her, or don't say, something in a harsh way.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of love.
Love is absolutely
It's the same
part
thing
of
over and over again.
Mhm.
She's starting dementia. She's not fully in it like my father, but it's
Yeah.
of course people with my father does have it, so it's
Yeah, so love is a very important thing to come to. Compassion, absolutely, a very important thing to come to. I like what Rumi says. Rumi says to wait and have faith in the waiting. Wait and have faith in the waiting. And while you're waiting and having faith in the waiting, then all those other beautiful things that you have just reflected upon, and bring all of those in too. Bring the love in, bring the compassion in, bring the patient, the care, the calm, all of those beautiful things. Bring them all into the picture as well. And especially when patience is difficult, when the waiting is difficult, when we can sense that unhealthy ego is kicking up and saying, "Oh, I'm tired of waiting. It's been 10 minutes. It's been 15 minutes. It's been 30 seconds." When that ego is starting to kick up, then remind yourself, this is a practice of love. This is a practice of compassion. This is a practice of contentment, of calmness, and bring yourself back to that. And part of the other part of patience is it's faith, but it's something else too. It's the absence of lack. It's the absence of lack. So most everybody in the world, if you ask them, do you feel you have enough? They would probably say no. I feel in some way, shape, or form that I lack. Lacking money, lacking resources, lacking popularity, lacking something. Something that they associate with an ideal, happy life. Something that they need for their happiness that they don't have enough of or any of. So there's this constant idea in the human mind that I lack. And when I lack, when I feel that presence of that really strong sensation, how can I be patient? Because the one who lacks food wants to eat. The one who feels that they lack love wants love. The one who feels that they lack adventure wants adventure. There's a strong desire there for whatever it is that we feel we lack, and we go after that desire with some heavy power. And so if we're going after something to fill the hole of lack, then we can't practice patience. It's just not possible. So the first thing that we need to do in the practice of patience is address the thought I lack. Figure out what it is that we think we lack. And don't listen to your ego mind when it says, I don't really think I lack anything. I think I'm pretty much okay. Because if you look just a little bit deeper than that, that's not true. I like the way everybody's giggling. Yeah. It's just not true. There's some way There's some way, whether it's a fleeting thought or a persistent nudge, there's some way that every single one of us feels we lack. I was sitting there this morning doing one of my programs that I'm responsible for doing. And in this particular program, I'm sitting in Sangha with a Swami who is the teacher. I'm not the teacher, I'm the student. And as he's going through and talking about some things that were coming up in the program, there was a thought in my mind. There was a thought of, am I prepared for this? That's a thought of lack. Especially if it becomes persistent. Fortunately, it was followed by, of course you are. Don't be silly. But, how many of your thoughts that breed impatience and that build the sensation of lack within yourself become persistent, chronic even? So we have to look at that, and we need to say to ourselves, in this moment, I feel that I lack something. That's what's causing this reaction, this impulsive behavior, this desire to grasp, to reach out and to take, to react, to manipulate. You put the word there. What is your tendency when you feel that you lack something? Does anybody want to say what their tendency is, just like in one or two words? Does anybody know what their tendency is? Yes?
Lack knowledge, be very quiet.
Yeah.
Say anything.
Absolutely. And so the dosha is Vata. We know that because we've worked together in group before, right? And so that's very common for Vata. When Vata feels, so Vata is one of the doshas. It's the dosha that's dominated by air and space. And when dosha is not balanced and it feels lack, and Vata feels lack because Vata is predominantly air and space. There's not a lot of earth there. And those of you who are in the Ayurveda module know what I'm talking about here. And those of you who have studied Ayurveda know what I'm saying. There's very little earth dominance there, very little. So, of course, there's going to be a sense of lack because it's hard to put the feet on the ground. So what does Vata do? Well, Vata does one of two things when lack is present. They either shut down and hide, or they talk a lot about nothing. And that spins them out of control, and then they shut down and hide. So either way, they end up shutting down and hiding, right? Yeah, absolutely. So the idea is that when we are looking at what it is that inhibits our ability to be patient, and we discover, for example, that it's this feeling of lack, then we need to look at it and say, what is it that I'm afraid I lack? Am I afraid I lack value? Am I afraid I lack significance? Am I afraid I lack purpose? And am I afraid I lack love, the ability to love or be loved? What is it that I'm afraid that I lack? And then address that. Either giving yourself a reality check, which is not an easy thing to do, or seeking someone to talk to about it, therapy. I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I think that the right therapist is a great thing for people. Or if you have the wherewithal within yourself to take the bull by the horns and to stare it down and to say, this sense of lacking value is BS. I do not lack value. I just don't believe in my own value. And why don't I believe in my own value? When was I taught that? When was I told that was the truth? And then taking it apart bit by bit over time, not overnight, over time. But, we can't take it apart bit by bit and rewrite our story if we're not willing to look at it. And therein kind of lies I guess it's kind of a double entendre, maybe, I don't know. Because you have to have patience to look at it, right? So if you're discovering that what's holding you back from having patience in your life is the sense of grasping out of a sense of lack, then in order to look at that and to really spend time taking it apart and discovering its root, where that came from, and then tearing apart the story that's associated with it and rebuilding, that all requires patience. It all requires patience. Because you can't build a story overnight. We can go buy a new outfit. We can go buy a new car. We can go find a new friend. We can go eat a new meal. We can try lots of different superficial things. But we can't rewrite our story moving forward without patience and time, waiting it out, giving it time, being calm, not having too many expectations, having courage and bravery too. You're all really quiet. Like, I can feel you staring. Which doesn't bother me at all. But I'm just wondering how many of you were thinking of this somehow today? Was this on any of your minds in any way, shape, or form?
Patience.
Yeah.
It's always on my mind.
Yeah.
I know how impatient I am.
Yeah. So you're all relating to it. Are you all relating to it? Is anybody not relating to it?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. As long as I'm on track, just got to make sure. Checking in with you. Because these things tend to be more of a flow of consciousness. It's more of, rather than preparing anything, it's coming in and kind of feeling and seeing what's coming forward. And today it seems patience is coming forward. Yeah. And patience married with this idea that I don't have enough or I'm not enough in and of myself. So the practice of patience is patience itself, is speaking firmly and straightforwardly to one's own self and saying, I'm not going to jump the gun. I'm not going to jump the gun. Now, I'll give you just a little example. And this is not a profound example at all. But for this particular practice that I'm learning, I have to have a particular mala. So mala beads, like what Girija has around her neck. They're prayer beads. And in the tradition, there are certain types of beads that you use towards certain deities. So the one that I need to get is called spatika. And that is quartz crystal. Now, I have lots of quartz crystal malas, but they're mixed with other stones. So quartz crystal and jade or this or that, the other thing. And so I have to get one that's only quartz crystal. And I went on and I looked, and I found one that I really liked a lot. And I was like almost pushing buy. Almost pushed make the purchase. And then I stopped myself and I said, well, this is a little bit on the fancy side though. Like it's got some kind of what do they call that? It's got like a little cut to the outside of it. It's not smooth. Yeah, it's faceted, and it's got a couple of other things. And I was like, I can make the impulse buy, or should I check first? And make sure that I'm not supposed to have a smooth one or something that has a particular feature to it, I really like that mala. So I could very easily make the impulse buy because I don't have that mala. Do you see where that's going? I don't have that mala. And I really like that mala. And if only I had that mala, maybe my collection would be more complete. But I'm going to practice patience and not buy that mala until I confirm that the condition of that mala is appropriate for what it's needed for. Because the reality is, I don't need another mala. And for those of you who have seen my mala collection, you know what I'm saying, right? So stopping yourself in that moment of impulse, taking a breath, and giving yourself a reality check. Therein lies the practice. It's hard. It's really hard. Especially when you see like a pair of jeans or that shirt or that new album. It's like, oh, this would make me so happy. Why will that make you so happy? What do you think you lack? Do you see what I'm saying? Whenever you reach out to something else outside of yourself, the only reason why you're reaching out is because you think you lack. And that breeds discontent, and discontent is impatience. And if you are behaving that way in one realm of your life, it will flow over into all other realms of your life. Because it's like a weed in the garden. You know, the kind like that, what is it called? Jules, what is the little thing that you eat that's high in iron that we had all out in the garden a couple of years ago? What is it? No, it's like a little succulent. Yeah.
Purslane?
Yeah. Oh, Kerslane. Yeah, we call it Kerslane. Yeah.
It's a weed, but it's delicious.
Yeah. But you know, you start off with like this little piece, right? So there's just this little thought, this little tiny little thought. And then you walk back there 3 days later and it's everywhere. That's what a sense of lack is like. It starts off as this little tiny thought. It's just like purslane. And then you come back 3 days later and it's everywhere. It's throughout everything. So the practice of patience includes the stopping during the impulse. The moment you feel that impulse is coming on you, is stopping and asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? Why am I thinking this? Why am I behaving in this way? Is there something that I feel like I lack? Is there something, and is the sense of lacking healthy or is it unhealthy? Because sometimes, you know, like when you wake up in the morning, you want breakfast, right? That's a sense of lack. It's lacking food in your tummy, and it would be healthy to have a breakfast, right? Yeah. But then, you know, you go through your day and you've had 3 meals and maybe 4. And then at 9 o'clock at night, you're like, pizza with extra cheese and pineapple. And yes, pineapple does belong on pizza. Absolutely. And then you're like, oh, because I'm so hungry. But are you really? Are you really hungry? Or is it just that in that moment you feel that you lack, and so you're going to grab the pizza as a replacement for whatever it is that you don't want to face? And we all do it, every one of us. So in that moment you stop and you say, why am I ordering a pizza at 9 p.m. at night when I don't have any friends over? I'm sitting here by myself. I'm going to have to eat the whole thing by myself. Granted, it'll have pineapple on it, but I could always have it tomorrow for lunch. So why am I getting it now? Can I wait? Can I wait? Can I bring myself to a place of compassionate discipline and discernment? Or does it have to be now? And then when that part of your mind comes forward and says, of course it's got to be now. Now is when you want it. Then you tell that part of your mind, no, you're not answering my question. Why do I want it? Why? What is it covering over? What is it hiding from me? Let me look at that. And maybe by looking at that, I can resolve something. So that the next time I do have a piece of pizza with pineapple on it and extra cheese, I actually enjoy it, rather than just use it as a manhole cover to cover up something. Yeah. How many of you have ever eaten a meal that you thought you were really going to enjoy, but there was just such a sense of something present there, like lack, that you just kind of ate through the meal, and pretty soon before you know it, it was like no enjoyment. It was gone. We all have, every one of us. Yeah, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be ashamed of. We have all done it, and we're here to talk about these kind of things, because unless we talk about them, we don't talk about them. And if we don't talk about them, then those feelings that are associated with that type of experience become a taboo subject. Don't talk about those kind of things. They're not fun. They're not pretty. They're not, they're not cool, right? They're not something. They're not appropriate, right? But if it causes you to suffer, it's an appropriate topic. if it causes you to continue down the path of suffering, it's an appropriate topic. If talking about it is going to alleviate the stress of it and maybe even resolve a little bit of it, then it's an appropriate topic. And we should never shy away from these things. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the first practice of patience is practicing patience. I know. So how do you cultivate the practice of patience? So that in that moment of impulse, we can slow it down. We can say, "Whoa, Nellie, just wait a minute." There's some really easy things you can do. For example, walking meditation. You can do a walking meditation. How many of you were here yesterday when we did the fire ceremony? Did you do the circumambulation? How many of you did the circumambulation? Yeah. No. Did you do the circumambulation? Did you?
I was in
Oh, you were in the kitchen at that point?
You
So,
did. When I left, I saw you walking around the fire
Oh, that
pit
was-
and
oh
looking
yeah,
down.
yeah.
Oh, that's what it's called?
Yeah, circumambulation. Yeah. Yeah. So circum.
Knowledge.
So circum, to circle, ambulating, walking. Yeah. So circumambulating. So what happens is after we do the fire ceremony, we walk around the fire 3 times, and you walk slowly and mindfully. It's a devotional practice. It's almost like a meditative walk, and inevitably, especially when you have like 17 or 18 people, somebody goes fast because they don't want to walk slow.
Taking up time.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. And somebody goes really, really slow, because they want to walk really slow. They want to have that experience. And then you can feel the impatience, you can feel it. It becomes palpable, really, really palpable. So it's really kind of funny. So that's a powerful practice, is to practice walking meditation, whether circumambulating around, the fire, or circumambulating around a statue, a murti. We can't go around Saraswati, but what we can do, circumambulating, is, we can stand here, we can face her and pranams, and then we can walk slowly in a circle just like this 3 times, and that's not that, right? That's not twirling. It's stepping slowly in a little circle in place and slowing it down. How many of you were in the yin class earlier? I think pretty much almost most of you, right? Yeah, and so remember when I was counting the breath for you? Yeah, how many of you found that to be easy? No? Yeah. How many of you wanted to breathe faster and were like, why is she making me breathe so slow? Right? That's a practice of patience too, is sitting there and counting your breath. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And that practice of counting your breath, slowing the breath down, as long as there's not a medical reason why you shouldn't do that, and slowing it down to the best degree that you can, whatever is appropriate for you. That's a practice of building patience and resiliency. The slower you can breathe, the more patient you will be. But we breathe fast, really, really quick, because we do tend to live in the world today in the state of chronic fight or flight or freeze. We're chronically reacting to something, whether it's a headline that came across our Facebook page, or an unfriendly comment someone made, or a fear about tomorrow, or a memory that's uncomfortable from yesterday. We're chronically reacting to things. And reaction is associated with fight, flight, or freeze. And fight, flight, or freeze is not associated with patience. Okay, so those 2 things never shall meet. We need to move ourselves out of the fight, flight, or freeze, so out of the sympathetic function of the nervous system and toward the parasympathetic function. And what is the parasympathetic function? But the ability to wait, the ability to breathe, the ability to be, the ability to feel like you're okay. In this moment, I'm okay. I can have patience. I don't have to pick up the phone and order the pizza. I don't have to click buy the mala now. All right? The mala's on my mind now. Yeah. Hey, I'm only human. But there is a difference, and it's a subtle difference between the thing being on your mind and your hands doing something about grasping it, right? So when you break these things down, just because you choose not to get the pizza doesn't mean you're not going to dream about it. Think about it. Imagine tasting it. You're going to go through all those stages because it takes longer for the mental attitude to change. You can, in this very moment right now, decide, I'm not going to order the pizza. And that's great. But then the ego reacts. The ego reacts because the ego wants it. And so it says, start thinking about it. Pineapple. Just a little bit browned. Sauce, cheese, da-da-da-da-da, perfect crust, da-da-da. It's your favorite pizzeria, you know it is. And you're like, I've made a decision. I'm not going to do it right now. It's almost like you're talking to yourself, right? So somebody on the outside sees that. They think you're a little nuts. But you know what's going on. What's going on is that you're training your ego to be healthier, to not instigate you so much, to not try to draw you away from your work toward patience. You're training your ego. So you have to let the ego go a little amok, in its thoughts and its attempt at manipulation, but you don't give into the manipulation. Does that make sense? Yeah, this is the self-work, right? We say, I read a self-help book. It was so wonderful. It had all these fantastic exercises in it. And it told me, like how to do this and how to alleviate my suffering. And how many of those exercises did you do so far? Oh, none. I love your honesty.
You gotta let it sink in a little.
Sometimes you need to give yourself time to
And while you're processing, you go buy another book, right? So that's the tendency, right? So then where is the grasping happening there? Where is the impatience there? There wasn't enough information in that first book, which I said was really good and had lots of really great exercises in it, and that I have to get another one. And maybe this one will give me the information. When we haven't even tried to fulfill the exercises of the first book. So when we behave like that, that's also an indication of a sense of lack. And what else is it? It's an indication of lack of faith. Because you're looking at this first book and you said to yourself and you said out loud to somebody else, this was really a great book. It had so many really wonderful thoughts and ideas and exercises in it to do. Why aren't you doing them? Why are you only reading them? Because there's a part of us that doesn't want to stop having that feeling of lack. It doesn't want to dive deep into the faith because it's afraid that diving deep into the faith means I have to change. And I don't know what that looks like. And I don't have the freaking patience to find out. So I'll stay with the familiar enemy. I'll stay with the familiar foe, rather than saying, exercise on page 27. That's the first one I'm going to do, and I'm going to start it right now. Instead, we say, it was a great book. Now, did you hear about this other book? So we grasp at those things outside of ourselves rather than internalizing, rather than going inside and addressing what needs to be addressed. And all of that is impatience. Impatience based in a sense of lacking. Whether we lack or the book lacks or we just see everything as lacking in general. Because it does get to that point. Like the purslane, it will take over the whole garden bed. Last year, we went out and we cleaned out the gardens ready for planting. Had all the gardens down to the soil. They all look so amazing. And there was just like this one little, and I kid you not, it was like this, just this little baby plant, and I pulled it out from the root and just, left it, tossed it, whatever, it should dry out in the sun. No. The next time that I went out there, because it was like maybe a week later, that whole box bed was all baby purslane. The entire thing, from one end to the other, was all baby purslane. I was like, wow, that's really kind of crazy, because now you got to sit there and clean the whole thing out. I had to take the top half inch of dirt off and everything, and put it out in the woods so that they can still live and grow, but not in the garden. So instead of living life afraid of the lack and afraid of the unknown and impatient, grasping at things, slow it down and see if you can discover what it is that you're actually not seeing. Where is the blessing that you're not looking at? Where is the potential that you're currently not willing to recognize? Where are you limiting yourself greatly? Where is your faith in the abundance that naturally exists? And that cycle will build on itself. The more that you slow yourself down and take a look and recognize that there's a great deal of diversity that you have not even begun to acknowledge, over time, you'll become awed by the truth. And you'll want to look more. You'll want to wait more. Why will you want to wait more? Because most of the things that you put your energy into don't need your energy. You're depleting yourself for things that don't need you. And then when you do attempt to put yourself into something where you can be supportive and helpful and maybe something that you just really want to do, you're tired. You're worn out. You're beat. And then, is it as enjoyable? No, not at all. So the more that we step back, the more we stop acting impulsively, the more we conserve our energy. And then when we do take action, when we do become involved, it's at a different caliber. We've talked about this before, just a couple weeks ago, a little bit, I think, right? But patience really is key. There has to be patience because patience is the waiting. And the waiting is just finger tapping. Unless it's waiting with faith, that there's a purpose to the waiting. Waiting with faith that situation really doesn't need me. It's okay. And I'm okay because that type of not needing is not evidence of my lacking. It's evidence of the greatness of that divinity. It's evidence that maybe someone else has a responsibility also, not just me. It's evidence that there can be more space within myself for something else, like happiness, like rest, like relief. There can be space within myself for those things, more than what I give myself currently. Does that make sense? Questions or reflections? Did you have your hand up before? Yes.
Do you have a mantra I could use to help cultivate discipline and patience?
So there's many different mantras, and generally speaking, as just kind of a public offering. So some of you already know that there's a difference between somebody asking what mantra would be useful for this type of a situation versus being given a mantra. So mantra diksha is a very particular spiritual prescription for something, and that would be a private conversation. But as a general public offering, if you're looking to cultivate a deeper sense of patience and also a deeper sense of faith to go along with that, then the Mahamrityunjaya is an amazing mantra to chant. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyamamrita. Chant that 108 times in the morning when you wake up. Take about 45 to 50 minutes once you get to know the mantra. And what that mantra translates as is, O revered three-eyed one, Shiva, the one who shines with the radiance of 10,000 suns, and the one who protects us all. Please shower your grace on me such that, just as the cucumber is released from the vine when the time is right, let me too never turn my back on liberation. Every time that we reach for something, grasping because we have put more faith in our lacking than in our wholeness, it means that we're grasping that vine and saying, nope, no liberation for me, not ready, nope, put me back, keep me attached. But the mantra says, Shiva, empower me to freedom from these tendencies. Empower me. It's also called the Great Death-Defying Mantra. Because there is a certain part of us that fears the death of anything. Not just the death of this body, but the death of the moment. The death of the attachment. The death of who I think I am. Any kind of change that has an unknown outcome. So liberate me too from that. Let me move away from that fear and come into an acceptance of the unknown. Our beloved Jules, she's taking a journey. She's heading away from here. She doesn't know exactly what is waiting out there. She has an idea, right? Maybe even a pretty good idea. But there's always an unknown, isn't there? Many. If you cared more about the unknown than you do about the heart calling you to do certain work, would you go? If the unknown had like the fear of the unknown, I should say, had more power over you, would you go? No, you'd stay. You'd stay with what is familiar. But then you chant to Shiva and say, release me from that bondage. Let me be free. And if that mantra calls to you, and the message of the mantra calls to you, then there's a recording of it up on our website and on our YouTube channel. Yep.
What if you can't do 108 every morning? You can only do it on Sunday mornings when you're here. What if can you do fewer?
You can wake up earlier.
But if I that's not the answer.
Sorry, not sorry. Yeah. So for starters, this is like the great meditation question. How long do I have to meditate for? Start with 10 minutes, and then every day add 1 more minute until you get to your age, and that's how many minutes. And then when you get to that point, just keep adding a minute every day for as long as you're in this body. So chant the Mahamrityunjaya for 10 minutes, briskly. So not real slow, not like, Om Trayambakam Yajamahe. It's not a song, it's a mantra. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyamamratat. 10 minutes. Sitting properly, at that pace if possible. And then every day add another minute until you reach your age. And then every day after that, keep adding more minutes for as long as you're in this body. There's always an option, But the greatest discipline, and it's a compassionate discipline, it's not a cold, hard discipline, it's a compassionate discipline, The greatest compassionate discipline is wake up earlier. You can all wake up a half hour earlier, but I'm so tired. Why are you so tired? Well, I'm tired because I go to bed late. Why do you go to bed late? Well, because I work late, and then when I go home, I have to have time to relax. But isn't sleep the greatest relaxation?
But I'm not consciously aware of it.
But won't you be consciously aware of that when you wake up rested the next morning? Earlier so that you can do your japa? Right? So we can look for all of the ins and outs that we want to. We really can. We can buy as many self-help books as we find attractive. The question is, when are you going to do them? When are you going to not just buy, but when are you going to apply? And it's the same thing with the mantra. I have a very beloved student who came to me one time and said, "Is there a mantra for this particular?" And I said, "Yeah, you can chant this one." And not long after that, she came back to me and said, "Is there a mantra for this particular thing?" And then I said, "Yeah, you can chant this one." She came back to me again, "Is there a mantra for this particular thing?" And I said, "Yeah. How many times have you chanted the first mantra?" "Have you chanted the first mantra?" "Oh, yeah, absolutely. I chanted it." I said, "How many times?" She said, "Well, a couple of times." "Okay, for how many days?" "About a week." I'm like, no. Go back to the first mantra and come ask me for an alternate after 1 full year, 365 days of 108 repetitions every day. And then you will know what the mantra is worth to you. But if you chant the mantra 3 to 10 times a day for a week, you don't know anything about the mantra. All you know is that it's a mantra and that it has the potential. Now, this is really interesting, isn't it? All you know is that it is a mantra and that it has the potential to support you. But you don't know how that support manifests itself because you haven't applied. You have to apply. You have to be willing to say to yourself, it's more important that I chant this, whether it's 10 times or 108 times. It's more important that I chant this consistently over a long period of time with little to no interruption in order to find out what this means to me. Otherwise, I'm just collecting tchotchkes, putting them up on my shelf. Yes.
Oh, no, sorry. I chant the Medicine Buddha every morning and night by the mala.
Wonderful.
So would you recommend to just keep doing that for a year, or can I add another mantra into my practice?
Was that mantra given to you by a teacher? Is it a mantra diksha, or is it a mantra that you opted into for yourself?
It's a mantra I've learned and I've done it myself in my life circumstances.
And how long have you been chanting it?
3 months, and
And you've been consistent with the practice?
Mala every morning, mala every night.
That's beautiful. That's really wonderful. So why don't you do this? Maintain the Medicine Buddha mala at night and do the Mahamricha in the morning.
Okay.
Because you've seen the benefit from the other one, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't continue.
Absolutely.
Yep. So as long as you're comfortable with that. But if you've seen a benefit, they say it takes 250,000 repetitions. So you're not there yet, right? You have quite a little ways to go for that if you're staying with 2 malas a day. So here's your other alternative. So if you want to do the Mahamricha and Jaya, do that one in the morning and do the medicine mantra at night.
Is it okay if I switch that? Because I wake up at 4:30 to do my morning practice and everything, and 50 minutes would probably, I don't know, I feel like I won't get enough sleep, so I'd like to do that after work.
Yes, you can do it opposite. That's perfectly fine. Absolutely. The other option that you can do is increase your japas of the medicine mantra. So if you're finding that there's a benefit for the medicine mantras, then you can increase that to 10 japa a day.
Malas? I've done that once. So it's a long time.
Do Do you all see the importance of patience?
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't have to like jump up to 10.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, you could do 2 japa in the morning, 2 japa at night of that one instead of 1. Or you could just increase and do like 2 at night, 1 in the morning and 2 at night. So any of those options are appropriate. The thing I would not do is I would not necessarily do them both in the morning and both at night.
That was my other question.
Yeah, I would keep them separated from one another. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
There's maybe one more question.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
So I cut down trees for a living, and so most of them are dead, and 90% is pruning live ones and removing dead ones, but sometimes, I mean, it just happens that a live tree is being removed for, I don't know,
Yeah.
which person wants it
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
Is there a mantra that I can chant before?
Yeah.
Just like, maybe just one before
There
I
is.
remove it?
There's actually a mantra for honoring trees. And off the top of my head right now, I'm not recalling it, but I know that there is one. So are we friends on Facebook?
I don't
Or
have
okay,
social media.
so why don't you email the ashram and just say I spoke to Swamini about a mantra for trees, and she said to email, and she would send it over to me, and I'll send it over to you so that you have that. But yes, you can chant that in the morning before you wake up and go to work. You just chant it one time, that's all. So do your japa, your regular japa practice, and then get ready for work, do whatever else you do. And then either as you're going out the door to go to work, or while you're at work before you start cutting the trees, then chant that japa, and just do so with a humility in your heart that there's a sacrifice being made for you to have a paycheck. And yeah, absolutely. So it's not that you know that you need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
You know, there is this mantra that honors the tree. Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good.
I've been thinking a lot about patience in terms of the studies, and I see that I believe, or I fall into believing, wrongful belief, that I lack the knowledge, and so from that I'm impatient, and I feel I must. There's a panic then that comes, a grasping to like I have to, like if I don't devote 24 hours a day all the time, I'm not going to have the knowledge. You know, like it calls me so much. And when you started speaking, I was thinking about, well, why do we study? Because we lack knowledge. No, we study to remember that which already is. And so I've learned a little bit about that through the study of the mantra, which, you know, the mantra is so beautiful, and I wasn't expecting really anything because I didn't know anything about it. But in the beginning, I was very rajasic. I have to learn this. You know, I'm going to learn it. And then something about that really started to pain my heart. And then you taught, and I thought about, no, it's in here. And so then there was a rest that entered in to the work. And I find my mind is then also clearer.
Mm-hmm.
And it is there. It's just the work is to uncover.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I'm just confessing, not confess. I'm relating to what you are saying. And I think it can be tricky because we think of patience around certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think that I can say, well, like, these are good things to feel that I lack. These are good things to go after and to take and get.
Mm-hmm.
But it's impatience and it's wrongful belief. So, yes, I don't know if I said that.
It's a great reflection. It's absolutely a great reflection, and we can look at that, and we can kind of check ourselves and say, I feel like I have to learn this mantra in 24 hours. Why? Like, what is that going to bring? What is learning the mantra going to bring to you in a 24-hour period of time? Not very much. But over time, the dedication, the compassionate discipline of coming to class, of practicing every day a little bit, of allowing yourself to have the inquiry, over time, what that's going to bring to you is proof. Proof that you're capable of doing that. That you can hold the space within yourself. That you can be disciplined compassionately. That you can have a genuine interest and you can grow that interest. When you grow a garden, do you put the seed in the ground and say, okay, ready, let's go? No. No, that one you're saying, don't grow. But like the tomato's going to grow when the tomato plant grows, the squash plant's going to grow when the squash plant grows. And you're going to grow when you grow. And so to learn the thing in 24 hours or to accomplish something overnight, to become a vegetarian overnight, to make the vow to oneself, I'm no longer violent as of right now. Okay, that hasn't worked for zero people, zero people. It's always process. And the unfolding of the process is what teaches us in such a powerful way that we actually are capable of learning. And what is it that we're learning? We're not learning that the mantra has to be learned today because it's going somewhere. The mantra is eternal. The mantra is eternal. So as we cultivate a relationship with the mantra over a long period of time, what do we discover about ourselves? We too are eternal. There's no rush. There's no rush, but there must be a beginning. There's no rush, but there is a process. It's beautiful. And that.
So that brings me, we study with you on Thursday nights from 6:30 to 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
And we've been learning blocks of mantras each month. And now there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because I can't get to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because at a time, patient. Do I have to do, if you teach it to me, you've given us all these recordings and critiques and helping us learn, am I allowed to put some aside?
Mm-hmm.
So I can learn them with you and then pick and choose when I'm going to bring them back into my life.
Yes, for the average student, that is kind of the purpose. So I've been studying the chanting with this particular teacher for a long time. I have a lot of mantras that I've learned, a lot of stutis, a lot of suktams, a lot of them, and I don't chant them all every day. What I do is I focus on the one that I'm learning, and then maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'll say, okay, I'm going to go through all the suktams today. That's going to be part of my practice today. And so I'll go through all of the suktams that I've learned. Or I'll go through all of the nitya mantras, which are your daily mantras. I'll go through all of those. That'll, just to keep them kind of in my mind because I teach them. So I need to have them in my mind. For the average student though, if you are attracted to the learning, then it's a process. So whatever one it is that we're working on, let that be the one that you focus on. And every so often, every 2 or 3 weeks, once a month, have a practice where you review everything you've learned. And then just continue moving forward. Because the reality is, the mantras that you're learning in that program, you're learning kind of the superficial level. Like this is the entry level. This is the beginning point. There's so much more to learn. Like there's so much more to learn about the Sanskrit and about the Devanagari. There's so much more to learn about the pronunciations, about the meaning of the Varnamala and the particular syllables that are there. There's so much more to learn. You put your toe into the water. And what you're deciding now is, do I want to put my whole foot in? Do I want to go a little bit deeper with this? Or do I just want to continue kind of learning at this pace, which is fine. Absolutely fine. You're not expected. I'm not initiating you. If I was initiating you, then you would have a responsibility. And I would be very clear with you what that responsibility is. 10 mala a day. Or or 2 repetitions a day, or whatever it would happen to be for that particular, mantra or scripture. But as, a general student in the class, you're learning. You're learning. Yeah. And the overwhelmedness is the fear of not remembering.
Yes.
And the fear of not remembering is a fear of lacking memory. So how do you remedy that? You work on it. That's all. Yeah, you work on it. Did you have another question?
Oh,
No? Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Yes.
It made me laugh when you sent out the recordings for all the ones we've learned so far. We've been working for 9 months and it's 8 minutes and 47 seconds. I was like, okay.
It's so true. It's so true. It really is. I know. Yeah. Did somebody else have their hand up? Yes, Sharon.
I would say that just listening to the word patience, the word behind patience for me is worthy, because I find it so easy to have patience and compassion for everyone else, but when it comes to myself, it's like, okay, why don't you have the same compassion and patience for yourself? So
Yeah.
worthy came to mind as we were talking. It's like, okay, so we could slow down, we could ask the questions. Why don't you feel worthy right now to give yourself that patience and compassion that you need for yourself? Because how can you truly give to others if you're not giving to yourself first?
Absolutely.
So that's all what's coming to me.
And it's very true. It's a very profound statement, because then it leads me to another thought, and that thought is, if you cannot be patient with yourself, can you truly be patient with someone else? Can you truly? Or is it just saying, like, I'm holding space for this, but there's like a lot of resentment there, or there's still an impatience there of not again, kind of a mentality. And a lot of people do that. They say, well, I'm allowing this, I'm letting it, but there's a complaint that goes along with it. Complaining is impatience. Complaining is complaining.
Maybe on the subconscious level that I'm not picking up yet. Maybe something to look at some more.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I do. I think that we do have the tendency to show others more patience than what we show ourselves. But then because we don't show ourselves patience, that patience is tainted in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
More to look at.
Yeah. Always. That's the one thing we're guaranteed of in this life, is we have no shortage of study material.
It's like an onion.
It is, absolutely. All right. So we're a little bit past the time, so let's sit nice and tall, and we'll close the eyes. Take a nice breath in, a nice breath out. Patiently place your right hand on your heart. Patiently place the left hand on top of the right. Take a beautifully slow breath in and a beautifully slow breath out. And together we'll lift our voice in one Om. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Thank you all so much for being here today. Such a gift to gather with each and every one of you. All the best to those going off on adventures. And just try to remember that the greatest gift that you can give yourself is space. Because there is a picture unfolding for you. And you will only see the entirety of that picture when you are slowing down enough to broaden your perception. When you walk quickly and briskly through life, you're only looking at where your foot is going, so you make sure you don't trip. But when you slow your pace down, you can lift your head up and you can see a bigger picture. And that picture is beautiful. That picture is amazing and inspiring. It has so much potential. Is it all beautiful and wonderful? Some of it's pretty hard, and some of it might be even pretty painful. But you won't be able to reconcile the pain with the wonderment or the things that are maybe not so beautiful with the beauty, if all you're doing is running. We have to slow it down. We have to practice patience, deepen our faith to just be with what is, and have faith that the waiting has purpose. That would be the unfolding. Have a good day, everybody. Good to see you. All right. Now, there we go.